Welcome to the 2015 mayoral debate for the city of Stevens Point. It is, I was just informed, the only debate. We've had forums, but now we are having a genuine debate, whatever that may turn out to mean. First of all, I'll introduce the candidates, and I'll introduce the panel and all that stuff. First of all, I want to not just welcome you, but thank you for being here. Because as a political scientist over the last 40 years or so, I don't know how many times I've repeated, the key to democracy is an informed electorate, which is just an abstraction for a bunch of people who care enough to try to find out what's going on. And you care enough to try to find out what's going on, to inform your vote in a way that many people are not doing. And I want to thank you for that as a political scientist and a citizen of Stevens Point. Now, we have two candidates, Mike Wiese and Jerry Moore, both people with a remarkable amount of experience in Stevens Point city government, on the council, also serving Portage County at various times, chairing committees. You read the thing you got in the program. These guys have been active for a decade or more, consistently, trying to help lead the city to where they want it to go. Now each one wants to see if he can take it to the next level and become the mayor of Stevens Point and perhaps have an even greater leadership role. So tonight we're going to hear a lot from these people. We're also going to hear from our three panelists, Nate Enwald, managing editor of the Portage County Gazette, Brandy McCuskey, editor-in-chief of the City Times, and Larry Lee of WSAU Radio and WSAU.com, where he is the news director. Now, let me give you a quick overview of the way this thing is going to play out, and then we'll get to what we're supposed to do. The candidates will begin with an opening statement, 2 minutes each. Mike Wiese won the coin toss and will be going first, and then Jerry will follow. Then each one is going to have an opportunity, going back in the reverse order. Jerry will ask Mike a question, Mike will ask Jerry a question. When that's done, then we go to the panel, starting where? At the end down there, starting with Nate. They will ask questions of each person, rotating the order, of course. The candidates will have 1 minute to respond to these questions. The person who gets the question first will also have a 30-second opportunity for rebuttal, which he or she, there are no she's in the group, are there?
Good catch.
I get used to trying to use, quote, non-sexist language. And we could have, never mind. These two guys, never mind. You don't even want to go there. All right. He can, rebut if necessary or desired. It doesn't have to. Now, you see these really cute red hankies up here? Those are challenge flags. And each of the candidates can challenge the answer from another. That is, that I don't believe, whatever. Challenge it for whatever reasons. Now, I don't want anybody to get worried. When the flag goes out, Mike McCarthy will not come in and put you in a Cellcom commercial. Just relax. It's just between the two of them and possibly me if they start yelling, but I don't think they will. And in any case, I'm going to turn my mic off so I wouldn't be able to yell over the top of them anyway. Now, we're going to get going. Mike is the first. Well, at the end, there will be an interesting wrinkle as well. The panel, if they feel there's been a question during the evening that didn't actually get answered, they're going to ask it again and see if they can get a real answer. If not, we'll just do one more question. Then the candidates will have 2-minute closing statements at the end of it all. We're going to wrap it up in an hour, so we better get it going. So, Mike, 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. Should have done a mic check. Special thanks to the City Times, the Gazette, and WSAU for hosting the debate. For those of you that know us, you know that we've both been on City Council for over a decade. Jerry a little longer than myself. You also know that I served concurrently on the Portage County Board of Supervisors since 2006. That extra experience has gone a long way, allowing me to build relationships and work on projects collaboratively with our neighbors in Plover, Hull, and all of central Wisconsin. I think that's why I have the support of not only several of the city council members, including the current president, but I also have many county board supervisors, department heads, and other municipal leaders supporting my candidacy. I've been elected chairman by my peers for most of the committees that I've served on. And being able to bring people together with differing opinions is something I'm very proud of. Business, labor, young, old, Democrat, Republican, wealthy, poor. Everybody brings something to the table, and they know that at my table, they'll be treated fairly, their comments will be welcome, and they will all work together to tackle the issues at hand. The office of mayor will need to work with leaders from UWSP, Midstate, Plover, Hull, Portage County, and especially the business leaders of our community. I've been doing that as an alderman and a supervisor, and hope to continue doing that as mayor. Thank you.
Mike, Jerry.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for coming this evening. I've served you on the city council for over 14 and a half years, putting in time, sweat, listening, all of these things. We've had one question that's been asked numerous times: what is different about you two? I'm going to answer that question for you now. Have you ever had a job where you've gone and you've done your job and you've been good at it, but you never get to the next step? You don't get the people to work with you to put together your ideas and move things forward. You move to another job. They do things differently. They have different people there. And all of a sudden, you're doing a little better. You're getting some authority positions. You're getting to work with the people around you that are listening to your ideas and doing things. Mr. Wiesa fits in county government. He's very successful there. He does not fit with the city. He's been a councilman. He's never had a leadership position there. He has never been able to gain the trust of a mayor that he has served with to be appointed a chairperson of any of the committees. He has never been elected council president by his peers. I have done both of those things. Mike does a lot of good things on county. He does not fit the city. Thank you.
All right, Jerry will ask the first question of Mike, and Mike's got about a minute to answer.
Mike, it concerns me that you, wow. It concerns me that you keep acting like you're the guy for this. And you have neither assured the community that you would step down from your county post if you should win this. And I'd also like to know why, if you're so confident that you're the right man, that you didn't step down from the city council position so that your constituents could have elected somebody now to serve that position, so that the council would not have to appoint someone or the city wouldn't have to spend money to fill that position with a special election.
Okay. Well, I guess to answer your question, I've already talked to the county board chairman. While I'll be required to step down from my city council position, I'm not required by law to step down from my county position. In the best interest of the people of the 4th District, after talking with the county board chair, I will be staying on county board until such time as the county board finds and appoints a replacement for me. That way there's a continuation of representation in the 4th District. The reason I didn't step down as alderman is because I'm not due for re-election until next year. So there was no reason for me to step down from my county board or city council position. So that's why I didn't do that. I hope that answers your question.
Mike?
We've both been on council for many years. And over those years, I've been directly involved in several projects. The one that I'm most proud of is creating that 30-acre dog park through volunteer work and community donations, 0 tax dollars. What project have you done that you're most proud of?
One of the projects that is coming up this summer that I've worked on for a long time that has been delayed through the efforts of the city to save money is the reconstruction of Reserve Street just over here, where both the high schools and the university use as a running path and as in their physical education departments. It's a matter of safety. It's something that needed to be done. We've scheduled it and worked on it for a long time, and now it's finally being done. The other thing that I'm proud of that I did was when I was chairman of the Finance Committee and Mr. Halverson wanted to eliminate crossing guards and youth baseball programs from the budget, I slowed down the budget process by scheduling extra listening sessions and listened to the people, and we found a way to keep those things in the budget for the community.
Nate, your first question for Mike?
With all this, excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse, that's going to happen. With all the discussion about reducing the city's debt, what is your plan to address the city's deteriorating infrastructure, including ongoing roadway repair and outdated underground utilities?
Specifically talking about the infrastructure, we have and will continue to have a cyclical repair schedule. We, several years ago, we had a survey done of all the streets gauging the state of disrepair. That's down in the Public Works office, telling us which streets need a simple resurfacing, which streets may need a total reconstruct or simple patching, things like that. I don't foresee anything in the near future that's going to be different than our regular scheduled cyclical repairs. About $1 million, $1.5 million every year is allocated to the street repairs, and I think that will probably continue.
Jerry?
I totally agree with Mike. The only difference would be that I would continue to work with those two department heads, water, streets, to make sure that they collaborate with each other to do these projects as fiscally responsible as they can so that we can move more and more of them forward and schedule them appropriately so that they will get done and get done right. Thank you.
Mike, anything to add?
Nope, I think that covers it.
All right. Randy?
Both candidates were serving on the city council when it approved a $62,000 parking study in 2014, and in 2013 a $25,000 study to determine if the former Midstate building on Michigan Avenue could be a suitable location for a new city hall. With so many educated and qualified department heads and employees already at the city's disposal and on salary, and with a university filled with young professionals who potentially have related experience, how does the city justify this extra expense, and should outsourcing these types of studies be a continued accepted practice?
Thank you for asking that question. I was just talking to one of my colleagues today about that the city has used too much of its monetary resources in doing studies outside of city that we can do at home. We have the intelligence, we have the right people, we have a very strong intelligence staff, we have great employees. We should be able to do these things in-house. We may on occasion have to look somewhere else for some guidance maybe, or for some expertise, but overall it is something that we should be focusing more as an in-house feature and not be wasting our tax dollars in that manner.
Mike?
And for the most part, I agree. Anything that we can do in-house, we should be doing in-house. The recent pay study was a good example. We hired a firm for $36,000 to gather information that's available to the public through open records. The two in question, I think, though, are a little bit outside the ability of our current staff. We don't have a facilities director, per se, like the county does in Todd Neinfeld, to determine space needs and what upgrades and things would need to be made to Midstate to house the city offices. So I think in certain cases, as Jerry said, outsourcing is going to be needed for either specific expertise or because the departments' staffs simply just don't have time to do all of the research that's needed. For example, the pay plan, we have a department of one. But I think some of those can be done, as Jerry said, in-house, and if they can be, they should be.
Jerry, anything further?
Just one statement about the Mid-State building. That was looked at as being a possibility for City Hall. When we received that study back, there were so many changes, additions to the building to make it happen. It was really monetarily unfeasible. We were told by our past mayor that that building had more than enough square feet. By the time the study came in, it wasn't nearly correct. Thank you.
Larry?
The Stevens Point Industrial Park currently has some vacant buildings, and once Skyward moves into their New World headquarters, that site will be empty too. Should the city consider redeveloping those properties, starting a business incubation project, or just let the real estate market take its course, and why?
My turn?
Yep.
Well, being an employee of Skyward, I will be soon vacating that building in one way or another. I can tell you that the real estate market is already aware of those vacancies, and there's some interest out there in repurposing the buildings that are there. The city's job, I think, is to market those available lots and buildings. I don't think it would be appropriate if you're suggesting that we raise the buildings and build a new structure for someone to hopefully occupy. I am against doing any sort of destruction until it's necessary to do that destruction. So I think that the market should be given an opportunity to fill those buildings. And I know that there's a few opportunities that are in the works right now for some of those buildings. To that effect, then, I think it's also the city's job, and one of the things that I said I would do all along as mayor is go out and solicit businesses, let them know what Stevens Point has to offer, because I think it's important to let outside industry know what we have. Right now, we're kind of reactive. We have a website that shows what space is available, and if you want it, you can inquire at clicking on a link or what have you. We need to go out there and market it.
Jerry?
This topic ties right back into one of our biggest projects that's going on right now, the design of the overpass at Hoover for the train tracks. I've heard from realtors and professionals out in the industrial park that one of the biggest hindrances to that industrial park is the fact of the trains blocking traffic on Hoover Avenue. The semi trucks don't go that way. They all have to plan to go around all of the time. Getting that overpass done will make that industrial park and that particular area of town where there's some TIF districts much more appealing to people who are looking for spaces. They go look at them, they find that train track is blocked, and they want nothing to do with them. That's why when we passed a resolution to build this overpass in 2005, we should have moved ahead with it a lot sooner. Thank you.
Nate, your question for Jerry?
The city of Stevens Point is showing signs of housing shortage for students and young professionals. And recent comprehensive plan update meetings have shown that residents believe the city is lacking in single-family and appropriate student housing. What is your plan to address these needs?
We've been aware of the single-family shortage for quite some time. I've pushed for it, tried to get the mayor to pay attention and do something about it. We have looked at things, but nothing has come through. We need to annex some more space in town, hopefully closer to the areas where people are going to work so that they can bike or walk, find ways to get there, and be able to expand and grab some of that tax base that we so desperately need for our community right now. One of the ways that we can do that is to find some land, encourage development on it. I would rather see private developers do it than the city get involved. Sometimes that's not possible. We've had a lot of jobs come into town, AIG, expansion of Skyward. We're not capturing the tax dollars that come from the new housing that goes with it, and we need to seriously pay attention to that and move forward with it.
Mike?
Jerry's absolutely right. we're creating the jobs and we're using that TIF financing to help the businesses that are creating the jobs. But the direct effect is that the people who are filling those jobs are tending to want to build, as anybody would. You want a new house, you want to build it to your specifications rather than buy someone else's and worry about remodeling. I wouldn't say there's a housing shortage. There's a desirable housing shortage. There's houses available. We've got a few young couples in our neighborhood that have bought older houses and remodeled them because that's what they like to do. But the ones that are wanting to build have a tendency to build out in Hull or Stockton or Plover, simply because Stevens Point doesn't have the area within the city boundary to build those houses. Really, the only place we can expand is east. We have very little room to grow north because we're bordered by Hull. South, we have, of course, Whiting, Park Ridge, also to the east, and to the west, there's very little buildable area too. So east is the way we're going. We're in the process right now with the new East Park Commerce Center. We have options to purchase sizable chunks of land for business development. I think what we need to do is work collaboratively like we have in the past with the village of Plover and have, like Jerry said, planned annexations where we reach an agreement that after so many years, this area moves into the city. If we can provide the opportunities for people to build the house that they want in that $140,000 to say $250,000 range and give them a nice area to build, I think that's going to be one of the keys to keeping those people here paying their property taxes to the city of Stevens Point to offset those TIF funds.
Jerry, anything to add?
Not on this one.
Okay. Brandy?
Members of the City Council have repeatedly indicated that the UWSP campus is one of the most valuable parts of our city. Yet the city has not seen any proposals to make 4th Avenue safer for pedestrians or more efficient for motorists. What options might be feasible for the city to take a look at in order to implement some additional safety measures?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's not true that we haven't seen any plans. The university plan that came through back, what was that, 2006, 2007?
7 or 8, I think.
Somewhere around there. Had a very nice drawing. They had a boulevard down the middle of 4th Avenue, one lane, and then certain areas that were designated as crosswalks. They had mounds in the boulevards with fencing go around them to deter students, to kind of funnel them like a herd into certain places to make it safer. They're not crossing the street all over the place. It's a good plan. We haven't implemented it. There's all sorts of things that we have to be interested in. We have to be aware of that's one of the areas that the fire department and ambulances use quite a bit as a crossway through to the hospital. We have to make sure those trucks would be able to fit down there. We have to make sure that it would actually work. A gentleman showed me the other day that in Europe, on a lot of their bike paths and in certain intersections, they actually have little stop and go lights for bicyclists and pedestrians that actually, they're controlling pedestrian traffic now like we control automobile traffic. Just another option, something to look at. Thank you.
Mike?
I like the stop and go lights. That's a so Midwestern thing.
Isn't it?
And that shows that Jerry's been here long enough to be considered a native. Everybody else says traffic signals. But Jerry's absolutely right. The city doesn't have a specific plan for that area, but we have been presented, reviewed, and accepted the university's comprehensive plan, again, that directly addresses 4th Avenue with the raised median, green space in there, giving them a Frogger stop point while crossing the street. So, I mean, the plan does exist.
Nate, your question for Mike?
I'm good. You can move on. Thanks, Larry.
No? Larry's checking.
The city has spent a lot of time improving the downtown, East Park Commerce Center, residential corridors, including Ellis Street, as well as Buchholz and Michigan Avenues. What part of the city do you believe is most underserved or most in need of improvement, and how specifically would you propose accomplishing those improvements?
Is that one me?
I believe that's you.
Okay. Yeah. Probably the most under-addressed area would be either the south side Division Street corridor, or maybe the north side Division Street corridor. Both of those, I think, have probably outgrown their practicality. It's often difficult to fill the storefronts. Some of them are set back from the street quite a ways. They're not as visible. Really, the only thing that the city can do, as I said before, is get out there and market it. Come up with a plan, more detailed probably than the comprehensive plan, which already exists and we're in the process of updating now. But get a collective vision of what you want to see in those particular neighborhoods. I think that we've got some opportunities on the south side because we've got a fair amount of buildings that can be repurposed. We've got the old cops, and I'd love to see a grocery store in there to compete, but I don't have any control over that unless I want to buy it myself. So I think all we can really do is market those areas. Again, formulate that vision first, have a plan. This is how we'd like to see it, and use that as a starting point. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's dreams are going to come true, but it gives us a starting point when we're discussing what developments we'd like to see in there, and then encourage those developments and get out there and market. If you want to see well, let's say a Chinese restaurant. We don't have enough of those in town. So if you want a Chinese restaurant, you go out and market your development area to the Chinese restaurant developers. And that's what I think I would do as mayor.
Jerry?
Slight disagreement with Mike. I think the north side is doing very well. We put a TIF district up there. Many of the buildings, there's the apartment complex on the corner of Isidore and Maria that went up since we put up that TIF. The mini mall that used to be a restaurant on the corner, the other corner, has given itself a facelift and many improvements. There's a Quick Trip on the northwest corner that's been in there now. The Noodles and Company in that whole area got built out because of the TIF. And Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, all of those people put facelifts on their buildings. The north side is looking a lot better. The area I would focus on, believe it or not, I'm a downtown business owner, but we've spent enough time on downtown. The south side business district needs some attention. Fortunately, Quick Trip has shown some interest. That may start a cavalcade of change down there, which would be a great thing for our community. We have a great community. We have to take care of it, we have to nurture it, we have to build it. Facelift here and there does wonders. Having a new business come into town, not a new business maybe, but setting up in a new area, could be a very positive thing to spur some action on the South Side Business District. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm hoping that will be the stimulus that we need to move that forward.
And I would say that I agree with Jerry for the most part on that. There has been a lot of improvement since we created that TIF 5. However, we still have several vacant buildings, including the former Cooper Motors site, the Curry in a Hurry building, and I believe that the main, what used to be Red Owl, I don't know what it's called anymore or what it was in its most recent incarnation, but that building's still vacant. So there's room for improvement in that area.
Now it's Nate's turn to ask a question. Or Jerry.
Okay.
Can you explain and justify your voting record on the proposed sale of Edgewater Manor, which was ultimately voted down by the council? And how do you see that building's future unfolding, as it will need a lot of work coming up?
Well, I voted to keep that city asset in the hands of the city. If we did sell it, we would have absolutely no control over it anymore. I believe that a long time ago, the city made a promise to the elderly that it would provide some of these services. Yes, it was under different circumstances with the HUD program and all of that, but we accepted those responsibilities. I think we need to keep that promise. We need to live up to it. We do need to do some work on that building. I don't honestly believe exactly the numbers that we were given, so I don't think it's going to cost as much as we were told. I would need another independent contractor or some developer to go in there and look at it and give us some true numbers. But I think we have a responsibility to our elders in our community to provide this service that we already promised we would. I voted to keep it, maintain it. I believe we should hold on to it. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Mike?
And I've said this all along too, is that the city is responsible for providing some of these essential services. Affordable senior housing is one of those services. The statement that was made is if we sell it, we lose control of it, and that's not exactly true. If you check the minutes of that October 20th meeting, I was questioning the proposals and whether or not we had the legal ability to negotiate. I want to give Edgewater its best chance of success, and by success I mean keeping it affordable senior housing. The city does a poor job of that, and I think there's some reasons for that. I was on the Housing Authority Advisory Board for many years, going back to at least 2006. So I saw how things developed in that project and all of our other public housing, which I think is one of those essential services. The proposal that night or the agenda item, was to review 2 proposals for purchase. Neither one of those proposals had what I thought was a good deal for the city. And again, the minutes reflect that. They show the questions that I was asking, and you can go online and see that. I asked if we could negotiate. We have the ability to say, you want to buy Edgewater, I want a long-term agreement that you are going to keep it affordable senior housing. And we can define that in the letter of the contract. We had that ability. It's stated so in the minutes. The motion was made to not sell Edgewater, taking that option completely off the table. I thought there were some opportunities there to at least explore negotiating a long-term solution, because the city obviously is bad at it. I think we can do better. We've got a manager on site now. But the motion was made to not sell it, which took that option off the table. I'm a firm believer that every option needs to be explored fully before discounting it, and I voted against the motion to take that option off the table.
Anything to add, Jerry?
Yeah. We have a responsibility to our seniors. There is no guarantee that if we sell that to a private entity, I don't care what kind of contract you have, as long as it meets the zoning requirements once it's out of city hands, they can come to you in 2 years and say, you know what, this just isn't working, we can't live up to the contract, we still own the property, we're going to do with it what we want. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality of life, and we've seen it with other things. That's it. If we want to keep it as senior housing, the city needs to hold on to it to do that. There's no guarantees otherwise.
Thanks. Brandy, your question for Mike?
At Wednesday night's League of Women Voters Candidate Forum, both Mr. Moore and Mr. Wiesa talked about the need to increase the city's equalized value. What is the first specific move you would propose the city make towards increasing the equalized value?
Raise the property taxes at your house. Well, that's pretty specific, isn't it? The only way you're going to increase the equalized value is to have development. First and foremost, you have to create that development. We've got some projects in the works right now, and specifically what I would do is I would encourage the projects that are in the works and go out and seek new projects. I've actually been doing that already. I've talked to several developers who, through the grapevine, I've heard in one way, shape, or form, they're looking at expanding or potentially constructing new, not necessarily in the city. I've met with them initially, unofficially, and tried to convince them of that. So those are the things that I would do specifically.
Jerry?
First thing I would like to do is go back and crack open that wonderful comprehensive plan that we have. Look at the designated areas, try and figure out, with the help of department heads, council, what projects and where we want to do them, talk to surrounding communities, work collaboratively with their leaders to make a plan to annex areas, correct some of our border issues, and get developers to come in and build on those sites. We have a plan in place to do this. We need to follow it. We need to use it to our advantage. We need to use our abilities to communicate with other communities that surround Stevens Point, the absolute necessity of the strength of the city for everything else in this area to survive. We have to keep the city strong. Thank you.
Anything to add, Mike?
No, sir.
Okay. Larry?
Officials from the Stevens Point Police Department have indicated extensive space and security issues present in the department. What is your plan to address layout and space problems in both the police department and the city's portion of the courthouse? And do you feel it would ever be appropriate for the city and the county offices to be located in separate buildings?
All options are on the table. Before 1958, when we opened the current county city building, the mayor's office used to be in the basement of a school between Main and Clark Streets. The city jail was over on 2nd Street, I believe, and the fire department was down on Strong's Avenue. It hasn't been all the time where we've had local government all in one spot in our community. It's very convenient for everyone. It makes a lot of sense. But right now, we're outgrowing the building that we're in. The building needs some major repairs. The county's starting to look at that. We need to take any option we can get, take a look at it, really mull it over with the council, with department heads and the people of town, and find out what's going to work. The jail, the city police department needs to be repaired. Something needs to be done down there. We have to find out what exactly is wrong and what we can do to get it fixed before we move forward with any of that. Thank you.
Mike?
This is a perfect example of how my experience on both city council and county board is coming into play to work collaboratively. I also sit on the county space and properties committee. One of the major things that we're dealing with right now is the construction, or probable construction in my opinion, of a new centrally located jail, courthouse, and support services, which is one of the reasons we purchased the former Weber building, so we'd keep that campus concept and have all the county offices in one location. That is going to do two things. It's going to take a serious burden off of the current facility and move that over to the new facility. It's also going to free up the current sheriff's department. I've already been in contact with Sheriff Lucas and discussing this. Also, Chief Kevin Reuter, who's going to be resigning soon. I've talked to the assistant chiefs about this too, and they're all on board with the possibility of two things. One, co-locating some of the facilities with the current county proposal. We use the same sorts of resources for the most part, a sally port, holding cells, office space, detective areas. Up until very recently, we used the same machines to investigate cyber crimes. They work very closely anyway. The locker rooms, for example, could be shared resources. That's a possibility. The other possibility, the one I like the best, is that when the sheriff's department moves out of their current facility, relocating our police department into the existing sheriff's department. They already have the sally port. They already have the holding cells. They have a dispatch center. They've got the room and all of the facilities we need. We would convert the current holding cells and the jail cells and repurpose those as office space or whatever we happen to need. That's going to take the burden off of the current county city building as well. Some of the structural problems that we've been talking about, oh wow, if I talk down, it gets really loud, are the fact that the building's old, 1958. We've got some leaking around the foundation that we've tried to address. Most recently, in the police department downstairs, one of the plumbing problems in the men's bathroom. It's old, it's deteriorating. Those things need to be updated, and some of them are really cost prohibitive. That building has been remodeled so many times that none of the heat exchangers work the way they're supposed to. We have air conditioners going in the middle of winter. So I think there's some opportunities there once the county builds their facility to work and share those resources.
Back to you, Nate. This is for Mike.
Not including projects already approved, such as Hoover Road overpass, and outside of Business 51, what specific capital projects would you pursue if elected, and how would you fund them?
I'd fund them with money. It is. We've actually kind of started on one of my goals. That's probably the most cost prohibitive project that we have, and that is getting the streets department out of Buchel Park. It's been there forever. And I think it's ironic and sad that we have heavy equipment, salt storage, and most of you probably don't know that, but our city's fuel supply is stored literally within a stone's throw of the river. If you drive through there right now, you'll see that some of the pine trees are dying. It's because some of the salt from our old salt storage shed was leaching through towards the river, killing off the trees. We have no business having that heavy piece of structure in a city park. The problem is it's extremely expensive to build a new facility. As I said, we've kind of already started on that, moving the transit facility out of that building and building a new one out in the business park. That would be a goal, and how to fund that is probably going to be the biggest problem because it's going to be exceedingly expensive to build a new one. However, what I would look for is grant opportunities at the state and federal level to see what's available. And of course, unless we get those grants, it's almost impossible, short of a referendum, to raise the revenue necessary to build a new facility, probably again out near where our transit facility is now on the industrial side of town.
Jerry?
At this time, I haven't really been looking for capital improvement projects to be spending money on. We have debt service to pay down. The projects that we have at hand right now basically take up all of that. Trying to find a project to add on that's going to be big and expensive is not the thing to be looking at. We can be mindful of them. If something comes up, we should pay attention to it. But right now, we need to find ways, creative, legal ways to pay down our debt service so that we can do more capital projects. But we have enough on our plate right now with the capital projects that we have going and being started with the overpass project that we really don't have any more room in our budget for any more capital projects. We have to be sensible about how we use our money and paying down our debt service. Thank you.
Anything to add, Mike?
No, sir.
Brandy, a question for Jerry.
The Portage County Business Council receives an annual payment of approximately $30,000 from the city. Some members of the City Council have repeatedly questioned the value of the Portage County Business Council and what it provides to the city. What does, in your opinion, the Portage County Business Council do for the city, and should the annual payment continue?
I was wondering when you were going to get to that one, Brandy. I'm wondering the questions, yeah. I question their value also. They come in, they did a report, they showed us how to use their new website, which they frankly could have sent us an email of. Back a couple of years ago, all of the council members, if you weren't associated with another form of government in the city, quit receiving their email notifications. At their forum for the mayoral candidates last month, I asked them how come we quit getting those, and they checked their email and found out that all of our addresses had been removed. They put them back in. I get all sorts of emails from them now, which is good because they do a lot of things, and now that we have that email coming in constantly, it appears that they're doing more than we knew before because we weren't being notified. I still question the value of it. I still question whether or not they're actually bringing business into our city. I hope they do. I hope they continue to work hard to promote Stevens Point, not just Plover, not Whiting, anywhere else, but equally serve the city who is generously providing them with a monetary source so they can continue their jobs. Thank you.
Mike?
And I was completely unaware that City Council wasn't receiving those emails. Apparently my county board address was the one that was receiving them, and I have them all forwarded. So I was getting the emails, and I was well aware of what was going on. It came as news to me at that forum when I found out that the city wasn't receiving those emails. So I've been well aware all along of what specifically the Business Council does. And there's been people on county board that have been critical of that funding too. They want to know what they're getting for their tax dollars, and I think that's very appropriate. What they are getting for their tax dollars is that frontline form of marketing that I talked about. While they don't have the resources to go out and solicit the businesses, like I said I was going to do when I get in office, what they do is they provide the central location for anyone who's interested to come and see what we have available. So they have a listing of all of our vacant buildings in the county, all of the potential construction sites, and their job is to be that first contact, similar to what the Convention and Visitors Bureau do if someone wants to hold a hockey tournament. That is their primary function outside of the county. The secondary function that the Business Council provides is service and support for the businesses that already exist in Portage County. Most recently, and I'm probably a little biased on this one, they were very active in lobbying the state and rallying support to keep Skyward in Wisconsin. For those of you who don't know, there was a strong chance because of the state budget that Skyward was going to be forbidden by state law to do business in the state of Wisconsin. We were this close to moving, taking that world headquarters, those 500 jobs that we currently provide, and leaving the state. Through our state legislature, rallying of support from some of our users and specifically the Business Council, they were able to get the state budget changed, allowing Skyward to not only stay, but now we're building a new $20 million world headquarters with an anticipated 1,000 jobs in the next 15 to 20 years. So those are some of the things that the Business Council does currently. One of the things that I want to do is expand on that and have them assist in going out and marketing those businesses. They already have their mailing lists and so forth, working with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and as I said before, potentially even working with our Community Development Director, either creating a new position or repurposing some of the staff time to allow us to go out and market Stevens Point.
I'm good.
Okay. According to the city's Community Development Director, Michael Ostrowski, parking issues are a top complaint received by his office. The city is currently undergoing a parking study for 3 key areas of the city, downtown and the area surrounding UWSP and St. Michael's Hospital. In your opinion, is the study comprehensive enough? And what would you propose to improve the city's parking problems? Also, do you think the new science building should have a lower level parking?
Who's first?
Oh, I'm first on that one, sorry. I hadn't even considered having lower level or underground parking at the science building. It's a university building, but when next time I talk to Mr. Rasmussen, I'm going to see if that's ever crossed their mind. The parking study, some of you were there, I know Mr. Rasmussen was, had their meeting tonight. It was a public information section at Midstate when anyone and everyone could come and voice your concerns about parking in those areas. I was there right before I came here. It was a pretty good turnout. And we're in the public input phase. They're actually going to be meeting with the Downtown Business Association on April 7th. So if anybody's interested in not doing anything, I think Jerry and I have something else going on that day.
I think all of you do too. I hope.
So I think this is one of the things that we mentioned earlier where we said that if the city has the resources to do the studies on their own, they should be. And that's exactly what we're doing. I think one of the biggest keys to our current parking problem is enforcement. As a matter of fact, I just learned tonight that there's been a car parked in the Mid-State lot for the better part of a month. Never got ticketed, never got towed. Parking enforcement is difficult because we're short-staffed. So I'm going to work with the university and Mid-State to try and fill some of those staffing gaps that we have, not only with parking enforcement, but with the inspection department, things like that. There's students that are going to school right now to learn the trade to get out and do those jobs in the future. We can offer them an internship, for lack of a better word, and help shore up some of the city's shortcomings with staff and give them real-world experience so they can finish school and have something nice to put on their resume saying, I've already done this job. So I think enforcement is going to be one of the big issues. The other part is the fact that people want immediate and convenient parking, and that's not always available. People want to park right in front of the store to run in and get a cup of coffee. We've got a lot of parking downtown if you're willing to walk a block or two. So I think realization of where those parking areas are, and I talked to the director tonight at that study, or that hearing about that, is that we can have signage directing people to all the new lots that we have available, showing them that there are places to park if you're willing to walk a block.
Jerry?
Mike hit on a lot there. Being a downtown business owner, I see how the parking is downtown, and I always am kind of curious on how we can have what's perceived as a dead downtown and still have a parking problem down there. We have a wonderful downtown that's alive and thriving, and it's doing very well. Parking downtown has been a lot better now that we opened up the area around Mid-State and the area around Great Lakes. It's not perfect yet, but it's like Mike said, it's about people wanting to have the parking spot right in front of where they want to go. They have to be able to walk a little ways, be willing to. And we really don't have a major issue downtown at this time. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Somebody's going to complain about it. The area that I believe we need to focus on is around the university and around the hospital, because that directly affects the quality of life of the people who own houses in those areas. They have issues with being able to get out of their driveways, to get in their driveways. Those areas need to be enforced more. They need to be taken care of and paid attention to. The university, let's face it, they're Nazis. They do a great job of parking enforcement. They make a lot of money off of it. We need to send some of our parking people probably to the university to train with them so that they learn how to do their job more efficiently. And that might help us with some other monetary issues in town too. Thank you.
Okay, folks, the panelists have some things they want to clarify. We're going to take about 5 minutes for that, then we're going to have the closing statements.
Actually, I think we have one more question.
No.
Outside of capital projects, what unique initiatives would you pursue?
Paying down the debt. I know it's not unique, but it's very important. It's what we really have to be conscious of. We've got a lot of little projects we can do around the community. We can pay attention to the bike ped plan, do the things on there that don't cost a lot. We can review signage in downtown, signage around the community. There are all sorts of day-to-day things that have been neglected for a while at the city. Being a business owner, I know what it's like to have those little things and how easy it can be to put them off a little bit, and how disastrous it can be if you just let them sit and be ignored. Our police department's an example of that right now with the problems in the building. You have to take care of the little things. We need to focus on those little things right now. We have the perfect opportunity to do it. We have the perfect opportunity to pay off our debt, take care of those small problems before they become big problems, and continue to move the city in the proper direction.
Mike?
And my biggest initiative, and I think I've said this at every other public forum, is re-energizing the Eco-Municipality Task Force and the path to sustainability and expanding on that. I said it last night that I want to have a partnership with the community, business owners, residents. I think they feel intimidated and maybe are inhibited by coming down to city council meetings and things like that. They can be pretty intimidating. What I want to have is I want to encourage that participation. And the Eco-Municipality Task Force started that back in 2007, getting groups of citizens of like interests to work on different components of that. I want to keep those community advisory boards. AMNA is a good example, the Old Main Neighborhood Association, who takes pride in their neighborhood and addresses issues, works collaboratively with the university and the residents, and then comes to the city with suggestions and proposals. I think it's important to do that, and one of the things that I wanted to do in addition to those community advisory groups is have a sort of suggestion box, not only a physical box outside the mayor's office where people can drop their thoughts, comments, or suggestions in, but working on the website, because people don't want to be seen dropping a piece of paper necessarily in the mayor's inbox. but I want to give everybody the opportunity that has something to say or has an idea or a concern. I want to give them the opportunity to present that to someone who's going to listen. That person is going to be me. And I want to do it on a website so they can do it anonymously. It's not going to be a forum where people get to argue back and forth, because that usually turns into a mess. You have a comment, you submit it, I will respond to that. If necessary, I will get other department heads involved and respond to that. That's probably my biggest initiative.
Okay, are you guys ready to clarify those things you didn't feel clear enough? Oh, yes. All right. Okay.
A few moments ago, we talked about the possibility of city offices potentially moving into empty county space at some point in the future. One of the candidates in particular made it sound like it would be a very simple, kind of an easy process. I would like to clarify your thoughts, and of course for the voters also, what does that process entail when the city and county come together to work on co-locating, sharing space, or potentially a lease type of situation? We saw how messy things got with the library lease and how it dragged out for so long. So what, if this were to move ahead in this kind of direction regarding law enforcement offices for the city, what kind of process could the public expect to see?
Who starts?
Jerry.
Oh. This is one of those situations that concerns me, that Mr. Wiesa wears two hats in this community. Where is his loyalty going to stand, with the city or with the county? In past agreements we've had with the county, city taxpayers are being taxed twice for the same piece of property and the same project. The Lincoln Center, the library, we pay county taxes. The city of Stevens Point, believe it or not, is in the county. We also pay city taxes. So we haven't been making agreements where it's been equitable for everyone. If we reach into another one of those agreements, we're going to have somebody that's going to stand strong for this community, which will be me. I will stand up for Stevens Point. We will not enter any more of those kind of agreements because they are harmful to the taxpayers of the city of Stevens Point. We need to find a way to do that. It may be the right thing if we can get the right agreement, but we need to walk in there with the mindset that we need it to be fair for everyone. Thank you.
Mike?
For those of you who have ever seen a county board meeting when it's relating to a city issue, you know that I've always represented the city's interests, specifically that of the 4th District. That comes first. I am a city representative on the county board, and anyone on county board will tell you that. Brings some disagreement sometimes, but I represent the city first and foremost, and that's never going to change. To answer your question specifically, I would have to give you an example of what might happen to tell you the process. And this is, again, another one of those situations where the fact that I've dealt with the city government and the county government and built those relationships, and I know the process on both sides. As I said, I sit on the Space and Properties Commission. So let me tell you what would happen, let's say, if the Sheriff's Department vacates their current facility. Now, keep in mind that none of these are done deals. The county actually had in their plan to raise that building and offer some additional parking. Barring that, if we reach an agreement to purchase that building, and it would have to be a purchase, I wouldn't go for a long-term lease, because if the county doesn't need it, they should get rid of it. Purchase the building, it would have to go through, first of all, a negotiation. Let's say we settle on a price of $1 million. The project would have to come to City Council, go through our Finance Committee, and through the vetting that normally happens on City Council. It would also then go through probably the Space and Properties Commission, a committee on the county side, and then have to go through probably Executive Operations to get that squared away, and very likely the Finance Committee to approve the purchase price. And then it would go to the county board for full approval. So, I mean, there's red tape involved in any of those options. And they would be different if we were to co-locate. As Jerry said, in a co-location standpoint, we would have to have a solid agreement like we have with the current county city building, where the city actually owns 20-some% of the building, and we lease another certain amount of square footage from the county. Those are long-term leases. That can get a little hairy depending on who is involved in renegotiating the lease. I think that if we do things right from the get-go and have that lease continuation, I don't think a lease would be that much of a problem to do either. Answer your question? Ish?
Kinda?
Want a red flag?
Which brings me to my final question for the evening. Actually, you two are different in personality. That's fairly obvious, one would think. One of you is perhaps a little more outspoken. The other one is perhaps a little more introverted and reserved. How are you different? In every candidate forum that we have had over the past few months, you two gentlemen have nodded in agreement with each other more often than you have disagreed. So please explain, what are your biggest differences?
Who goes? Mine. Is it mine? Excuse me, I'm taller. No, and it's funny that you mentioned that because Jerry and I have a similar mindset. We've known each other since college. A lot of people probably don't know that. We don't hang out on weekends or anything, but I would say we have a very friendly relationship, and on council we voted similarly through most everything. I think the main difference that I see is the fact that I am probably a little more outspoken. I still listen to all of the different perspectives, evaluate the information, but once I make my decision, I'm pretty vocal about letting people know. One thing I don't do is I'm not saying Jerry is, but I'm not wishy-washy. I don't do a lot of hemming and hawing. I will sit and I will listen to anybody that has an opinion to offer, as long as they're respectful. There's a few people that address the council on times that aren't. You may have heard of them. But I think it's important to get all of the information, and I think Jerry feels the same way, but the big difference is I am a lot more outspoken, and some people call me the class clown. I have fun with what I do. When I like to do something, I like to enjoy it. I like to experience it. And just because I crack a joke every once in a while doesn't make it any less serious when we're dealing with very serious issues. But I think it makes everybody feel a little more comfortable when making those decisions.
Jerry?
I pretty much explained this at the beginning of the evening. There are things that we've both accomplished. Mike is very successful on the county board. He fits the county board. I've been very successful on the city council. I've been council president twice, acting mayor for 2 months. I've been chairman of the finance committee, chairman of the personnel committee. Very important committees. I feel very blessed that I've been on the city council and done so many things. Mike has never held a leadership role on the city council. He's never gained the trust of either mayor he's worked with to be appointed a chairperson. He has never been elected council president. He just doesn't quite fit. He found a place where he fits very well over at the county. And I respect him for doing that. I served on the county for 1 term, and they do things so differently over there that it didn't work with me. I fit in the city. I fit here very well with city government. I stepped down from my seat. I was up for re-election. I signed non-candidacy papers because I wanted you to know how serious I am about running for this position. There is no safety net. There is no falling back on something else. This is the job that I want. This is the job that I have been studying for over 14 and a half years. Dedication. I have been to and actively participated in every city council meeting since I have been elected. 175 months in a row, every 3rd Monday of the month, I have been there for you. I've been representing you, and I have been doing it with enthusiasm and trust and caring for this community. Dedication that I want to continue. I would like you to help me make that 176, 177, and keep going for quite some time. Elect me mayor. I will continue to do that for you and bring that forward. Thank you.
That brings us to the closing statements. Because of the coin toss, Mike started, so Jerry starts the closing statements.
I'm sorry, Dr. Riley, we did have 2 more follow-up questions real quick.
Yep.
No, you don't. You're not looking at those people.
Okay.
Okay, if you've got 2 more questions, fire away. I misread the signals that were coming my way.
That's all right.
I like the way he read them.
I know Nate's got one coming up, and I've got one quick one here. Earlier, gentlemen, you had both spoke about equalized value and how to get that up in the city so you can bring in the revenue you need. You both spoke pretty well about development and bringing in businesses and new development. But you also both talked about annexation. Now, the one thing we know is cities like to annex to grow about as much as towns hate being annexed. If you look at the Green Avenue area, you've got a checkerboard of unannexed town of Hull properties. If you look at Stockton, I'm sure they're not real happy about losing more property to the city. So you both had talked about planned annexations. How do you propose to get the towns to go along with that?
Thank you for asking, Larry. It goes back to communication. That's one of the best ways that we can get these things done. I've worked with Mr. Holdridge on the Sewer Service Commission a few years back. We had a very strong relationship at that time, and I have no reason to believe that we don't to this day. There are some very crazy areas in town that are not in town. They're actually in the town of Hull. If you go down Country Club Drive, everything north of Carroll's Lane, that little island between Country Club Drive and the interstate is part of the town of Hull. Over close to my district on Highway 66 as you come in, it is down to the point where it's every other house, and then there's a little umbilical cord that goes in on Green Avenue, Maury's Bar. There's a couple of lots back in there. They're all part of the town of Hull. It would be really nice to work out the same kind of agreement, like Mike said before, that we had with the town of Plover. Give them 5 years, 10 years to be annexed into the community and straighten out our borders. This isn't just about annexing things. This is also about public safety. It becomes a conflicting issue with which police department. Is it a sheriff office job? Is it our city police job? Fire department, not so much anymore now that we have mutual aid agreements, but before it used to be that house is technically in the town of Hull. Their fire department should come here and service that house that's burning down, even though it's going to take them, a volunteer department, X amount of days to get there, where the city one could get there instantly and save the houses next door that are actually in the city. So it's a very big issue, and it's something that we should work on and something that should be approached. We have that opportunity now because I think either one of us, when we get in there, are much more amiable to talk to and willing to listen. So thank you very much. Mike?
Jerry hit the nail on the head. We can't force anyone into the city at this point. If there is a reason for John Smith, he decides that he doesn't like the town of Hull anymore and he wants to get annexed into the city, he can request that. And as long as we have a continuing line, we can't just spot annex. But if there is one of his borders that is currently in the city, or her borders in this case, and they request annexation, we can do that. The town can contest it, and we've already done that on several occasions. What I'm talking about is more of the agreement we had with Plover. Phase 1 annexation is currently in place and done. Phase 2 is out a few years yet. Interesting that Jerry brought up Chairman Holdridge, Town of Hull Chairman. John is actually endorsing my candidacy. So I can tell you that I have a very good working relationship with the Chairman of Town Hall. President of the Village of Plover is endorsing my candidacy. That shows the cooperative nature that I've already had with a lot of these municipalities. We need to provide incentive for someone to want to get annexed into the city. And I think if we work out the agreements that are beneficial to both of us, with the town of Hull, for example, or let's go with the Village of Park Ridge. Village of Park Ridge is completely locked right now. So short of growth, they, like us, are under the same levy restrictions. So unless their tax base or their equalized value grows, they don't get to raise taxes anymore. And you know that with a finite amount of space, unless there's new construction that's tearing down something old, you're not going to get that tax base increase. So we need to work collaboratively with municipalities like that to share services or what have you. But I think that is a part of an incentive to work together with these areas to plan expansion. And that's where I'd focus my energies.
I'll actually pass it back to you, Professor. We'll move on to closing statements.
Okay.
Can we challenge?
All right, again,
Sure.
by the
Sorry,
coin
Larry.
toss and all the other rigmarole, it's now Jerry's turn to spend 2 minutes in a closing argument, then it'll be Mike's, and then we're done.
I've enjoyed serving this community for the last 14 and a half years. I respectfully ask you to vote for me because I think I have done it in a meaningful way, doing the right thing, making the right decisions, very tough decisions at times, sitting through some long meetings, listening to people. Every day people come into my business and talk to me about what's going on in the community. I have a lot of fun meeting new people and talking to them. I go out and see people, I get phone calls. I had one gentleman come in and had a problem in the neighborhood with his neighbor dumping stuff in his yard behind his garage, and he actually coerced me into leaving my business and closing the doors, or leaving my fiance there to take care of it by herself for a while, and we went out and took care of it. Did those things, all the little things that come up. To me, it's a very enjoyable job. The job of the mayor would be 10 times that, which I would get 10 times as much pleasure from. I think it's a wonderful community. We have great people. We have great amenities. We need to talk about them more. We need to take pride in our community. We've got to quit being so nitpicky about little things. Look at the bright side of life, as Monty Python used to say. So please, April 7th, go to the polls, vote for me. I will do the best job I possibly can, honestly, fairly, and with dedication. I thank you.
This is the last big public opportunity to see us on the same stage before the election on April 7th. I know that some of you may still have questions, and I'm sure that Jerry or I would be happy to answer them anytime. We both got material out on the table in the lobby. Feel free to help yourself. My number's in the phone book. Contact information is available on the city website, the county website, or you can visit my website at www.mikewiesa.com. Thank you all for taking the opportunity to become involved in your future. I hope it doesn't end there. Stay involved. I know each and every one of you have ideas that can help the city, and I'd love to hear them. As you decide who you're going to cast your vote for in just over a week, and we have someone who just turned 18, they'll be voting for the first time. Was their birthday yesterday, or is it today? Today. Maybe we'll sing happy birthday afterwards. As you decide who you're going to cast your vote for in just over a week, look at what we've each accomplished. Look at which of us has had the most diverse and extensive experience. Look at who has been building the framework of relationships that we'll need as we look at shared services and regional cooperation. I'm hoping you'll see the same thing that hundreds of your neighbors have seen. They knew who they're voting for. I know who I'm voting for. And I hope you too will choose Mike Wiesa on April 7th. Thank you, and good night.
That will just about wrap it up. I want to thank the two candidates very much for being here and for being pretty forthcoming. Some of those things didn't need that much clarification. I thought they did a first-rate job, and I think all of us can sit down and think about it. We have heard two candidates with lots of experience explore some differences, explore some similarities, and talk to us about what they might do if we elect the mayor, and we're going to elect one of the mayors, so give it some serious thought. I also want to thank the panelists, of course, Nate and Brandy and Larry, for asking the questions, for keeping the questions pretty focused on pretty important stuff. And I, again, for the last time, want to thank all of you for being here tonight, for engaging, as Mike says, for getting interested, for caring about what's going to happen in your community. and learning enough to make a really informed decision come April 7th. So thanks, everybody, and I think we are done.